If you listen to vendors, every product today supports zero trust. If you listen to executives, zero trust sounds like a silver bullet. If you listen to engineers, it sometimes sounds like just enable MFA. But if you are operating as an enterprise security architect, you must understand something critical. Zero trust is not a product, it is not a tool, it is not a single project, it is an architectural philosophy. And if you reduce it to a technical configuration, you miss its transformational power. Zero trust exists because the traditional perimeter model failed. You no longer control a fixed boundary. Users work remotely. Applications are in the cloud. Data flows through APIs. Partners integrate directly into systems. The question is no longer, is this inside or outside the network? The question is, can this request be trusted right now? Zero trust changes how you think about trust entirely. At its core, zero trust rests on a few foundational principles. As an architect, you must internalize them deeply. Never trust, always verify. This does not mean distrust your employees. It means trust must be established dynamically, not assumed based on location. Assume breach. You must design architecture as if an attacker is already inside. This shifts focus from prevention only to detection and containment. Verify explicitly. Every access request must be evaluated using multiple signals: identity, device posture, location, risk signals, application sensitivity, least privilege access. Access must be granted only to the minimum resources necessary and only for the time required. Segmentation and isolation. Even if one component is compromised, lateral movement must be restricted. These principles require architectural discipline. You cannot bolt them onto a fragmented environment. You must design your enterprise systems around them intentionally. In a zero trust model, identity becomes the new perimeter. Network location no longer determines trust. Identity context determines trust. This means your architecture must elevate identity controls to the highest priority. You must design centralized identity providers, strong authentication mechanisms, privilege access governance, identity lifecycle management, conditional access strategies. For example, instead of allowing access simply because a user is on a corporate network, you evaluate: who is this user? What role do they have? What device are they using? Is the device compliant? Is there abnormal behavior? What resource are they trying to access? Identity becomes the control plane. If identity is weak, zero trust collapses. If identity is mature, zero trust strengthens every other domain: cloud, applications, network, and data. As an enterprise security architect, you must treat identity as foundational infrastructure, not an add-on service. Traditional security models validated trust once at login. Zero trust requires continuous verification. Trust is not static. It changes based on risk signals. Imagine a user logs in successfully using multi-factor authentication. Under a traditional model, that trust may last for hours. Under a zero trust model, if the system detects unusual behavior, such as impossible travel or abnormal data downloads, access posture must adapt dynamically. Continuous verification may involve risk-based authentication, session re-evaluation, behavioral analytics, device posture reassessment, adaptive access controls. As an architect, your responsibility is to ensure these signals integrate cohesively. Logging systems must feed risk engines. Identity providers must integrate with device management. Access policies must be dynamic, not static. This requires architectural orchestration. Zero trust is not about stronger authentication once. It is about dynamic trust evaluation continuously. In traditional environments, once inside the network, users often had broad internal access. Zero trust eliminates that assumption. Micro-segmentation ensures that workloads, applications, and services are logically isolated. Even if an attacker compromises one workload, movement to adjacent systems should be restricted. This applies across data center environments, cloud workloads, Kubernetes clusters, OT environments, for example. Instead of a flat network where all servers can communicate freely, micro-segmentation enforces application-to-application restrictions, rule-based network flows, explicit service dependencies, API-level access controls. This dramatically reduces blast radius. Micro-segmentation is not just a networking concept, it is an architectural principle of containment. You must design systems so that compromise does not equal catastrophe. Zero trust becomes even more critical in hybrid and cloud environments. In cloud platforms, infrastructure is ephemeral, workloads scale dynamically, APIs expose services externally, DevOps pipelines deploy continuously. You cannot rely on static IP-based controls. Zero trust must extend to workload identities, API authentication, token validation, cloud-native segmentation, role-based access controls. In hybrid environments, you must ensure consistency. Identity policies should apply regardless of whether the application resides on premises or in the cloud. Logging standards should remain centralized. Risk evaluation should be unified. Zero trust is not location-based, it is policy-based. Architecturally, you must ensure that policy enforcement is consistent across environments. Many organizations claim to have implemented zero trust when they have only implemented partial controls. Let us clarify common misconceptions. Zero trust is not just MFA. Multi-factor authentication is critical, but it is only one control within identity verification. Zero trust is not removing VPN. Removing VPN without proper identity governance and segmentation does not create a zero trust. It simply changes access method. Zero trust is not a product you purchase. Vendors may offer zero trust platforms, but architecture requires integration across multiple domains. Zero trust is not about zero trust in people. It is about zero implicit trust in systems. Zero trust does not eliminate all risk. It reduces implicit trust and limits blast radius. As an architect, you must move beyond buzzwords and ensure structural alignment with zero trust principles. If you approach zero trust as a one-time project, it will fail. Zero trust must be roadmap driven. You might start with identity foundation strengthening, privilege access management, conditional access policies, then expand into micro-segmentation, logging centralization, device compliance integration, then evolve into continuous monitoring, automated risk scoring, adaptive enforcement. Zero trust maturity grows progressively. You must define current state maturity, target maturity, milestones, governance processes. Without governance, zero trust becomes inconsistent. Enterprise architecture ensures uniform adoption. Executives do not want to hear technical jargon about segmentation models. They want assurance. You must communicate zero trust in terms of reduce breach impact, improve resilience, faster incident containment, stronger regulatory alignment, lower long-term operational risk. For example, instead of saying we implemented micro-segmentation, say we reduce potential lateral movement in the event of compromise, limiting business disruption. Instead of saying we deployed conditional access, say we strengthened identity verification to prevent unauthorized access to critical systems. Zero trust becomes strategic when it is framed around business impact. Zero trust is not only technical, it requires cultural change. Developers must design with least privilege. Operations teams must accept segmentation constraints. Executives must support long-term roadmap investment. Resistance may occur because zero trust introduces friction initially, but long-term resilience depends on it. As an architect, you must guide this cultural shift. You must explain why implicit trust is dangerous. You must demonstrate how architectural discipline improves stability. You must align zero trust with strategic growth. Ask yourself, does your organization still assume that internally equals trusted? Are identity controls consistent across systems? Can you contain lateral movement if compromise occurs? Is trust dynamic or static in your environment? Zero trust is not a trend. It is an architectural response to modern threat realities. If you implement it superficially, attackers will bypass it. If you implement it architecturally, it transforms resilience. You must think beyond configuration. You must design for trust minimization at scale. If this lecture helped you understand zero trust beyond the buzzword, make sure you subscribe to this series. In the upcoming lectures, you will explore cloud security architecture, identity-centric enterprise design, and security operations integration, building directly on this zero trust foundation. Like this video if you found it valuable. Comment below and tell me, is your organization implementing zero trust strategically or only tactically? Your evolution into a modern enterprise security architect continues in the next session.